What's up, everybody? Tanner back with another video, and today I just want to go over what I would carry in my fire survival kit and what I'm actually going to be carrying on a 10-day wilderness canoe expedition up in Canada. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into this pouch. I'll probably carry this pouch. This is a not screen leather pouch. I haven't actually used it yet, but this is a perfect size for my fire kit, so I figured, we might as well put everything in it. So we'll go ahead and pull everything out here, and then we'll get into each individual item. Alrighty, so starting out, we have the obvious right here, which is a Bic lighter. This is the go-to fire source for every fire that anybody should really start in a fire or in a survival situation. But needless to say, if you're a survivalist or a bushcrafter, you probably like to start fires in more primitive ways. So we do have methods that get more and more primitive, from the lighter to the Ferrocerium rod with a fire starter to also this little survival kit, which has a flint and steel. So you can simply use this to get sparks off. So you can use that for a fire starting if you have char ready made, which I do not have any char made, but when I'm in the wilderness setting, if I am doing a survival trip like I will be doing in Canada, then I'm going to be using this quite often to start fires because, like I said, it is more beautified, you could call it, and it is just more primitive, and it kind of makes things more special when you do start a fire. So anyways, I have this flint and steel, which is just a simple piece of kit that never goes bad. So once the lighter dies, you can have this as a backup for almost forever. So I do carry 3 rocks in here because it's not always easy to find rocks that are harder than this metal that will strike and create sparks on it, but that's why I carry 3 rocks right here. So anyways, let's go ahead, and that's that. Then I have this little leather pouch that I bought from someone for $20. A little kid made this pouch that carries a 6-inch Pathfinder Ferrocerium rod. So this is obviously probably the #1 best survival fire starter in my opinion, simply because of the fact that it can last for thousands of fires, but it also is a lot easier to start fires with this comparatively with a flint and steel, because I can use this when I'm up in Canada to start fires with birch trees and birch bark, whereas the sparks from the flint and steel are not going to be quite strong enough to get that fire started, whereas this, you can see it blows off sparks that are a lot hotter and cover more surface area, so it's easier to start fires with something like this versus a flint and steel. But needless to say, when I do have char available, because I made it, I will be able to use that as a really primitive method that pretty much lasts forever, like I said. So, and then moving on to the obvious, like I said, we have a lighter. I do want to mention a couple things about the lighter. So there's a couple different reasons I put this duct tape a little bit higher up on the lighter. So the reason I carry duct tape is because obvious reasons. You can use it to repair your kit, but also it can actually become a flame extender. When you're using this, you can put this under a piece of wet sticks and you can actually light it on fire, and it will extend your flame for minutes at a time. So it can become a fire starter as well as something to repair your kit, like I said. But anyways, I did not cover this entire lighter with duct tape like I did this orange one. And the simple reason for that is because I can take my flashlight from my phone, put it up behind here, and see exactly how much fluid I have. In fact, right now, because it's sunny out, I can actually see that there's still fluid in there. So I think it's pretty important to be able to tell how much fluid you have left in your lighter, so you don't get all excited and bring a lighter that's just about empty. And don't get me wrong, you can always shake it in here, but it's not always as accurate as actually seeing it. So that is another reason why I always choose the bright lighters like this or this versus a black lighter like this, because you just can't see through this. Even with sticking a flashlight behind it, you can't see how much fluid is in it. So if you're really in a survival situation, I would prefer to know personally. So that's just a little note about why I put tape on it and why it's also a little bit higher up versus this one that covers the entire lighter. So something to consider. But moving on, we do have these all-weather Pathfinder Mini Inferno fire starters. So these last for about 7 or 8 minutes, and they are wax, so I could go dip this in water and then start a fire with it right now if I wanted to. Those are a huge benefit because if it is truly a survival situation, I don't always want to be holding a lighter flame down on sticks. I want to be able to start a fire, walk away from it, and know that the fire is going to start. So that just makes it a little bit easier to start the fire, of course. And like I said, I probably won't use those because I won't have to, but, well, hopefully I won't have to. But if I do need them, I will have them. So I do have matches in here. I probably won't be carrying matches, but I wanted to talk about them a little bit because if you are creating a fire survival kit, then I think matches are a very important resource to have, simply because when it's wintertime, sometimes the butane lighters are not as easy to start, whereas matches will start no matter how cold your hands are, no matter how cold the matches are, it just doesn't matter. I've spent a lot of time in below 0 degree weather on polar expeditions up in the Arctic Ocean as well as northern Minnesota, and we use matches for just about every fire that we create, just because we don't have to wear one of these on our body to keep it warm in order to light the lighter, because when they get cold, it gets very hard to ignite and you got to warm them up sometimes. So in a true survival situation, you don't want to have to worry about that. These are just the UCO matches that are pretty bomb proof. They're expensive, so I don't really use them, but you could just get normal wooden matches from any store. This does come with a couple extra strikers in it, as well as a little bit of cotton just for fire starting if you need it. But this is just a little emergency kit. I don't necessarily think I'll be carrying this just because I don't think it'll be needed in the summertime. But if you're creating a 4-season survival fire kit, then I think matches are something that's worth to consider. So just a little option there. And then the last thing that I have in my kit, which would actually be on my belt, but that would be a carbon steel knife. So this is the Pathfinder Scorpion. I did just make a video on why I believe this is the best survival knife in my opinion, because everything on this knife was utilized in survival and well designed to be engineered for survival. So, but one of the things I do want to mention about this knife, so like I said, it's carbon steel, which is different than a lot of survival knives that are stainless steel, but a benefit with that is simply the fact that you can take a piece of flint or chert and actually get sparks off of the back of the knife, just like that. So you might have to move it around. But anyways, you can get sparks off the back of your knife and it doesn't damage it at all. You can see that it's perfectly fine to do that. So it basically gives you two options for a flint and steel kit. Whereas if you do lose this, you have another backup as well, which is pretty much an unlimited fire source, which is really, really important in my opinion, if you are going out there and staying in the woods for a long period of time. So the last piece of kit that I have not showed you guys is actually what I keep in my Wazoo hat. So all of the Pathfinder instructors carry this, which I think is a very important thing. So there's two little things I carry in here that are important. So we have a little piece of jute that is torn up, that is a good fire starter. And basically what this is a magnifier, a ruler, and a fire starter combined. So it's called a Fresno lens. You can buy these for like $12 on Amazon. They're a really incredible resource, mainly because of the fact that they're actually 100% reusable. And all you need is something like this. And you can roll it up in your hands to get it squished into a small ball. And you can actually take a magnifying glass when I'm in the sunshine, which today is, I'm in the middle of the woods where there's not really a whole lot of sun. But if I were to be in the sun, I could use this magnifying glass and actually create an ember inside of this, which I could transfer into a larger tinder bundle and blow that to flame and have another fire resource. So again, this just stays in my hat at all times. It's another extra backup that is reusable because, like I said, a lot of the survival that I talk about is less maybe survival and more wilderness living. I think it's pretty special to be able to live outside primitively for extended periods of time. That's why I like to go on extended expeditions in the wilderness, because it's just more special in my mind. So I'm calling it survival because that is kind of what the world has coined this outdoor passion, either bushcraft or survival. But for me, it's less maybe about both bushcraft and survival and more about just primitive living. And all of these items can be used as a survival kit, but also if you're just going out on a trip, you can use them as your survival fire starting kit. So there's a lot of things in here that are multifunctional. Like I said, we have the duct tape, we have the back of the knife, we have a bunch of different things that are multifunctional, which is very important. Another thing to mention about this knife is there's a 90-degree spine on the back of this knife. So what I can use that for, I'll show you real quick. So another thing I want to mention about this knife and why it's also part of my wilderness survival fire kit is simply because I can use the back of this spine, which is 90 degrees, which not all bushcraft knives are like that, but I can use the back of that to actually scrape off material that would give me more surface area to be able to create a fire. So as you can see, all this fine material that I'm creating, and I don't have to dull my blade because I don't have to use it this way. And you can see how good that material is. That stuff would, once it dries a little bit, because this is a green piece of wood, but once that dries, that would actually create fire very easily. So simply, like I said, it just makes things more versatile and makes my kit more well-rounded. So anyways, guys, that was my wilderness survival fire kit. If you guys have any questions or anything that you would add, I know I don't have everything in here, but this is kind of the main objects that I use when I'm out there in the woods. So if you guys have any suggestions or any questions or comments, just let me know in the comments below. But anyways, thank you guys very much. And if you could, please, please, please do like, subscribe, and comment. It would help me out a lot. I am a new channel. I'm trying to post hopefully twice a week. We'll see how long I can keep that going. But yeah, it does mean a lot to me that you guys are watching. And if you could, please just like and comment. Anyways, I will see you guys this Friday for another video. So thank you all very much. And Tanner, out.